Honestly, it's the monster I hate the most. When I see the opponent summoner gets 3 mana and my mana consumption increases by 3, my blood pressure lies like a rocket. Pew! Hello, I'm Storyteller. I remember, so you don't have to. I recently made a video of LD NAT5 tier list. Since it is LD NAT5 that I have used myself, I think the tier list will be quite accurate. But there are lots of LD NAT5s I haven't talked about yet, so I made this video in a hurry. I know how important LD NAT5 is in Summoners War Chronicles, and it's natural to be curious about the performance of your LD NAT5 monsters. Anyway, unlike the previous tier list, this tier list is an LD NAT5 evaluation that I don't have but have played against many times in PvP. So I also reflected the opinions of my guild peoples and other rankers. I know this topic will generate a lot of controversy, so I won't be making content about the whole LD NAT5 review in the future. Except for the LD NAT5 laboratory, which I actually using it in the arena. You may have different opinions and it is not wrong. If it is different from what I think, please let me know in the comments. This tier list based on the Korean server in March 2023, and the evaluation can change anytime due to balance patches, and the performance I'm talking about is mainly based on real-time arena. If there is an LD NAT5 that I didn't talk about in the previous video and this video, please don't ask me. I don't have it and I've never met it. I have no idea even if it is good or bad. Please understand me. Anyway, let's go. Light Desert Queen, Tier A. She was a monster I used myself before, but I forgot to mention in the previous video. This is a monster with many fatal debuffs in PvP, and if you fight her, you must deal with the debuffs. In short, I don't think there is a better debuffer than her in PvP. Her first skill removes all beneficial effect and applies silence and oblivion, and second skill applies silence and oblivion to a really wide range, and additional block beneficial effects are applied when the summoner is hit. Skill 2 has a really wide range, so it is difficulty to dodge with a dash, and when the silence, oblivion, and block beneficial effects are combined, any summoner will see the afterlife in front of their eyes. Generally, Water Pioneer is used for immunity, but the Light Desert Queen can use the skill much faster than Water Pioneer. However, her downside is that she has no use for anything other than PvP, and there is a 10% chance that silence may not be triggered. Also, note that while she has a strong ability to neutralize enemies, but she doesn't weaken enemies like defense down. If you can't kill the neutralized enemy with the rest of your team, you will eventually lose. It can contribute to damage with first skill, but I don't think anyone set it up as a dealer. Light Sylph, Tier B. Like the Wind Vampire, he is a damage dealer proportional to the debuff number. His first skill deals damage in proportion to the debuff number, and although the range is very small, it is still a wide area attack and only consumes 2 mana. His second skill is very special. It applies an irresistible stun if the target has DOT. A stun of 3.5 seconds is very lethal. I've met a Light Sylph equipped with the Despair rune, and it's really annoyed me. Both of his skills have a very short cooldown, so you can see him constantly using his skills to stun. However, since it is a proportional damage dealer, it is difficult to inflict high damage in PvP, and it is not very powerful except for stunning. So it is highly dependent on the rest of the team members. In PvE, honestly, there is nothing better than Wind Vampire or Hanarin. Light Archangel, Tier A. He was a monster I used myself in another account past, but I forgot to mention in the previous video too. Anyway, it is a representative character of Summoners War Sky Arena, and only the color has changed, but performance is really different. His first skill has a short cooldown and applies defense up while recovering allies. Second skill removes 2 beneficial effects and provokes a single target. There is a big difference between removing 1 and 2. His passive makes him so special, and when an ally gets a critical hit, he counterattacks every 5 seconds, which is really annoying. And it reduced the skill cooldown 2 seconds, but first skill cooldown is already short enough. Also, the counterattack is proportional to the defense, but the damage is higher than expected because he applies defense up himself. Recovery and damage are all proportional to defense, so Light Archangel is one of the toughest and powerful monsters. He gets along very well with monsters that have defense buffs, such as the Water Chimera. If you deal with him, be sure to secure the block beneficial effects. A Light Archangel that does not receive the defense up buff is just a pigeon. Cuckoo. Oh, if you get him, note that the Soul Link is not recommended because of his cooldown reduction passive. Light Undine, Tier S. Honestly, it's the monster I hate the most. Her first skill removes all beneficial effects and weakening the enemy by damage dealt down. Damage dealt down is more good than attack down because it is also effective for dealers in proportion to HP or defense. This is pretty annoying enough, but her second skill is even more annoying. Removes all harmful effects, great recovery, and grants invincibility. The cooldown of this crazy skill is only 18 seconds. Block beneficial effect, unrecoverable, nothing has meaning in front of the Light Undine. Fortunately, her recovery is a single target, so she can't heal all allies. Therefore, when dealing with her, fight mainly with wide area skills and focus on killing other monsters after using her second skills. Light Chimera, Tier S. If you are facing Light Chimera and you don't have immune monsters like Light Hole or Water Pioneer, you must spend your band card to it. If you encounter a Light Chimera without immunity, your mouth will not open all day. Like the Fire Chimera, he is a pure HP proportional damage tanker with no attack proportional attached. His first skill increases the opponent's skill cooldown while applying CC. The damage is high, and when you see the cooldown that increases real time when you get hit, only tears come out. His second skill are the main. Applying a mana recovery speed increases buff to the summoner while applying airborne and silence in a wide area. As you will know if you have played PvP, the increase in mana recovery speed is a really annoying buff. When dealing with Light Chimera, expect the opponent to use their ultimate before you. If you get hit this second skill without Soul Link and the opponent change the Soul Link and get hit again with second skill, you will only get cursing. However, if you use immunity, you can block the Light Chimera's silence and CC, and since the Light Chimera has no provocation, killing the summoner first is also effective. Killing Light Chimera first is hard because it has high HP, and the higher the HP, the stronger the damage, it's making really difficult to deal with. Light Sky Dancer, Tier S. If you couldn't open your mouth when facing Light Chimera without immunity, you would be unable to use the skill if you don't have immunity against Light Sky Dancer. Her first skill hits 3 times with a certain chance to increase the mana of ally summoner and apply the mana cost up to enemy summoner. When I see the opponent summoner gets 3 mana and my mana consumption increases by 3, my blood pressure rise like a rocket. Pew! First skill is annoying, but second skill is too. Recovers a single ally while reduce cooldown and use a buff that increases mana recovery speed. In short, if you deal with the Light Sky Dancer, you can see the opponent's mana regenerating like crazy. I often watch my Soul Link monster's skill mana consumption change to 7 or 8 while dealing with her. This is not a joke! Fortunately, her recovery is a single ally target and she cannot remove harmful effect. Unrecoverable block beneficial effect will help you. Light Raven, Tier B. I know only one Lanker who used Light Raven. He came to the Comt's official broadcast and trampled on me. Anyway, it is a Light Raven assassin, and it is a monster whose performance changes according to the opponent's HP ratio. First skill, use stun and additional damage if your HP ratio is high, and use a spell shield if your HP ratio is low. Second skill, resets the cooldown of first skill if your HP ratio is high, and use stun and continuous recovery if your HP ratio is low. First skill is 3 mana, so if the situation is right, first skill, second skill, reset, first skill, combo becomes possible. Also, his passive is to use second skill when attacked. But what is the effect of second skill if his HP ratio is high? Reset cooldown of first skill. Ooh. Although it's conditional, Light Raven is a dealer who can pour a lot of skills in an instant. However, to reset the cooldown with second skill, or additional damage with first skill, you need to have a high HP ratio, but Light Raven is an assassin. Therefore, it is difficult to maintain a high HP ratio because his body is weak. If first skill doesn't have a high HP ratio, the damage is too small, so it is not very threatening. The newly added rune, Shield, seems to help him, but I haven't seen Light Raven who using it. If the conditions are right, it is a very good assassin, but the disadvantage is that there are many variables depending on the HP ratio and situation. And the main skill, XL Stream, has a 5 mana cost, so if you use this and passive, it has no presence. Dark Beast Monk, Tier A. Only the color is different, but how can the performance different so drastically? Anyway, if you don't have the debuff, you will see hell when dealing with the Dark Beast Monk. His first skill applies block beneficial effect and applies poison, and his second skill is special. He defends the summoner and takes 50% of summoner damage instead. Also, if you attack the summoner during the defend, there is a certain chance of a wide area counter attack, and it's really hurt because he used defense up before counter attack. Passive deals more damage to targets that do not have any beneficial effects and stuns them with a 60% chance. Ooh. If you can't erase the block beneficial effects of first skill, there is a high chance his passive will activate. And since his counter attack does not have a cooldown, so you can see all characters die in an instant after getting hit in a row with a wide area attacks according to the probability. Literally, boom, 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 done. Also, since it takes 50% of the summoner's damage instead and counter attacks when the summoner is hit, it becomes scary to hit the summoner the moment he activates defend. However, he is so vulnerable to remove or block beneficial effect, and it doesn't interfere with targeting like a taunt tanker, so it's just a scarecrow without defend. Dark Mermaid, Tier A. I don't know how it is in the global server, but in the Korean server, Resurrection was main meta. And Resurrection monsters such as Light Pioneer and Dark Undine were S tier. However, the Reviver was nerfed and they disappeared, but Dark Mermaid survived. Anyway, her first skill is wide recovery and revives dead allies. Although the Reviver meta has disappeared, reviving dead allies in PvP still useful. Her second skill is special, giving critical resistance and immunity to allies and applying attack down to enemies. Attack down and critical resistance combined make most dealers' damage very low, and immunity is useful in any situation. If I had her, I would definitely use her instead of the Water Pioneer. Although she only has one recovery skill, and it still has a 70% chance to get a critical hit, but she is still a good monster. However, note that it is vulnerable to debuffs such as unrecoverable and block beneficial effects, and she cannot remove debuffs. Dark Kobold Bomber, Tier B. Fire, Wind, and Water Kobold performance are bad, so whenever they jump out of the purple sky, players curse Comtus. But Dark Kobold Bomber is the hope of Kobold Bomber. His first skill is a wide area attack that applies bleeding, and if bleeding occurs, the cooldown is reduced. If you hit multiple enemies, you can see the cooldown is reduced in an instant. His second skill is very high performance, removing 2 beneficial effects and applying silence. The difference between 1 and 2 is huge, and silence is a useful debuff in any situation. Water Pioneer used shield and immunity, so if you remove only one, immunity is still remaining, but Dark Kobold can remove both. However, the biggest problem with Dark Kobolds is low damage. 670% attack skill for 4 mana, 630% attack skill for 5 mana. At first I thought it was a typo, but it wasn't. Therefore, in Korea, it is used to tanky and stun the enemy through the Despair rune, but no one uses him now, and note that don't soul link with him because of the cooldown reduction. Dark Chimera, Tier B. I know he's a popular monster and I know he has a good performance in the Sky Arena, but you know, it's different game. It is true that it is not good that much in Summoners War Chronicle real-time arena now. I know that many people like Dark Chimera, so I asked the opinions of the rankers I know before evaluating it. There is a critical resistance down to his normal attack, but the probability is low and it is not very meaningful unless you are dealing with a Dark Mermaid. The first skill is to increase the critical damage and hit it 3 times, which is the main skill of the Dark Chimera. The damage from this skill is painful. Second skill is a bit disappointing, but first of all, it is proportional to attack speed, so you need to take care of attack speed to increase damage, and the critical rate up is honestly meaningless. You are not going to make 100% critical chance because of this buff, isn't it? His passive is his identity, and when he attacks with a critical hit, he has a chance to attack up and use first skill. First skill with attack up and critical damage up is really painful. However, the reason of Dark Chimera is underestimated is that the skill composition is not harmonized. The mana consumption of his 2 skills is 4, and the frequency of using the skill is very low. Then, in the end, you need to increase the chance of activating the passive through normal hit, but to do that, you need attack speed. However, the main skill, first skill is not proportional to the attack speed. In the end, if you care about attack power and attack speed, your HP will be very low, and you will die in an instant. Dark Raven, Tier A. He is a dealer who destroys HP, but when enemy is revived, the destroyed HP returns to its original state. So it was a monster that no one used. However, he has recently been buffed and the revival meta has disappeared, so he is highly regarded. His normal hit can destroy target's max HP by 25% of damage. His first skill can destroy target's max HP by 50% of damage and use Drain. Drain is a really important skill for Survivor, and a pure dealer with it like Vampire can survive longer than you think. His second skill can destroy target's max HP by 100% of damage and applies unrecoverable and defense down. His passive is also special. When the opponent's HP is destroyed a certain ratio, the damage dealt up and the damage taken down applied to Dark Raven. It is a nightmare for those who aimed for a long-term battle with many healers. If you fight with the Dark Raven, block the destruction through the shield and kill the Dark Raven as quickly as possible. Fortunately, because of the destruction, his damage is not as strong as expected. He is a skill dealer, not a normal hit dealer, but his second skill costs 5 mana and the damage isn't that strong for a 5 mana skill. But if you can't catch the Dark Raven first, you will know what it's like to be slowly eaten away, and the more you do, the harder it will be to kill the Dark Raven. Dark Vampire Hunter, Tier A. He is the main monster of some rankers and one of the monsters I often encounter in real-time arena. Looking at the specs above PWR 150,000 over, I can only curse. He is an archer, but when attacking from close range, there is a certain chance that a normal hit will reduce the defense. His first skill has a short cooldown of 18 seconds, deals additional damage in proportion to the target's lost HP, and applies defense down. The second skill is also deals additional damage proportional to the target's lost HP and makes shield itself. His passive is really strong, but unlike Fire Vampire Hunter, who increases attack speed, Dark Vampire applied skill acceleration. It is the passive with the longest description in Summoner's War Chronicle, so let's look at it together. After the battle starts, his HP gradually destroyed, and destroyed HP is over 30%, all harmful effects are removed, skill cooldown is reset, immunity is applied, damage is increased, and skill cooldown recovery is ridiculously fast. The shield of second skill makes it difficult to kill him, and the Dark Vampire Hunter who fires both skill is fear itself. Because it removes all harmful effects, it cannot be prevented even with block beneficial effect. In Korea, I thought it would be possible to block by Fire Magical Archer because she can block remove harmful effects and block beneficial effects. In order to convey accurate information for you, I asked my guild members to experiment for a long time, and in the end, rage cannot be prevented even with block beneficial effect. It is difficult to block Fire Vampire Hunter whose rage has been triggered, but Dark Vampire Hunter that deals additional damage in proportion to lost HP is more difficult. Anyway, I made a LD NAT5 tier list like this. I was very confident in the previous video because it was the LD NAT5s I used myself, but I am a bit cautious in this video because it is the LD NAT5 I don't have. To make this video, I asked the opinions of rankers I know, but I think each person's tier may be different. If you think otherwise, please leave a comment. The more opinions are accumulated, the more accurate the evaluation will be. There are still many LD NAT5 that I haven't talked about in the video. But I really don't know about it is good or bad, so I can't answer your questions, sorry. And a lot of people ask me what combination to use with a certain monster, but it really varies from person to person. Knowing that is the fun of Summoner's War Chronicle, so I recommend trying it yourself. Anyway, I hope this video helps you guys, and if it does, please share it widely. Anyway, take a long look, goodbye!